Hey, Brian?
Hmm?
I just want to see if we can hear Brian.
Right on. That's a nice shot you have there.
Brian?
What are you watching? Is that that shot?
That shows us. Brian?
What's this?
Gentlemen? Oh, God. Hello?
Hey, Brian, can you hear us?
Yes, very clearly. It says I'm muted by the host.
Yeah, so I can hear you from your phone, so that way it doesn't create the echo.
Good.
Yeah, so everyone will hear you. And you're on the everything is all set to go.
Okay. Thank you, Jacob.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I wonder if I joined on my iPad with earbuds and a microphone on it. Would I get feedback?
I think we could test it, but I don't think we should test it now. Especially since the internet works. Thankfully. I'm surprised Doug and Jim and the gang aren't on right now already. Normally they beat me to it.
Jacob?
Yeah,
So it's you, I, and Robert at the moment.
right.
Okay.
And I'll have us on gallery view.
Jacob?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm getting a little echo from the phone bouncing back at me.
Okay, so if you turn off the volume on your computer, I think you'll be okay. Hi, Doug?
And Jacob?
Yeah, I can hear you, Brian.
Perfect. Okay, and thank you. I got rid of the echo. Aha.
And Doug's here. No, I think we're good, Lynn. All right, see you tomorrow. Okay, so I think that we are all set for 4 p.m. Thankfully, and we are live, and maybe we'll even see some members of the public.
Early.
Well, yeah, no, I'm just saying that we are live, so everybody knows.
What is, do you know what the link is?
Yeah, I did send it, but I don't know, since everyone can already see the both of us. Probably. We'll have to experiment with it. I did talk to the IT guy from Mount Bethel.
Yeah.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, he's gonna call me on Friday. It sounds like he doesn't actually go there. He just monitors and administers the meeting.
Okay. All right.
So I don't know. If he surprises me, it'll be interesting. But it sounds like he just runs meetings from remote times or remote places from his house, I guess, and then puts up different things. And all the officials do it from their home.
When did you send me the link? I have to get it up on my computer. I just have to put it. It's silent.
You could put it on. Well, make sure if you do, make sure everything's muted.
No, that's what I do. Just,
Yeah, mute your mic and then mute your volume, and then you can put your camera on, I suppose.
I just don't have a meeting.
Doug, you here? Doug's not with us yet.
Doug's here. He's muted. I think he's talking to. Yeah. Oh, Jim's here too.
There you go. Hi, guys.
Hi, Jim.
Hi, all. Oh, you guys are. Oh,
Hello, Jim.
hey, Brian.
How are you?
Okay, I am unmuted.
Busy.
You're
Good.
sorry
Good.
now.
You're moving. Yeah. Got home early. I got to get one of these cameras dug on my phone, so my computer.
Good afternoon, Brian.
Afternoon. How are you?
All right, and yourself?
Yes.
Well, good. This gave me an excuse to get out of painting the back of the damn house, so I'm nice taking it easy here. I just got back in.
The other two supervisors look good,
I think I
keeping
might
their
have an
social
incentive to
distance.
be over at those meetings.
So,
What's that? Oh,
Okay.
two views of you then, Robert. Okay. You it's in the bottom left. Okay, we can already see you. You pop up like that. Well, I guess next time I'll use my camera, but good. It's a good view. And
Okay. I just turned down my volume.
mhm.
get ready for the big screen, Robert.
Okay. Everybody here?
Yeah, I think
All right,
so.
let's start this meeting at 4:03 p.m. It's Wednesday. It's April 13th, sorry, May 13th, 2020. And this is the Smithfield Township Board of Supervisors work session. Since there are people that either have joined us or may look at this remotely, I'm just going to read quickly the new business so you know what we're going to discuss today.
Okay.
Always on our website, at least on the morning of the day that you're having a meeting, sometimes before. New business is the motion to adopt resolution 440 regarding greenways, trails, and recreation program grant. Motion to authorize chairman to sign the DCED GTRP grant application commitment letter, and an update on the Gateway project, which is Smithfield Gateway project. All right, let's call this meeting to order. We have minutes to approve of 5/6/2020. Do I hear a motion to approve the minutes?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second the motion.
All,
All right.
all right, carried. Let's go right to the Gateway project, since everybody's here, and then we'll go back to the other motions. Doug, you want to make some opening remarks?
I think everybody should have received an updated proposed ordinances for two ordinances with respect to section 305, which relates to the mixed use development option. The first one being very limited in that it addresses just the parking in the front of the building, primarily to satisfy a proposed tenant for the site along 209, to increase the amount of parking allowed in the front yard from 10% to 20%. And that's all that ordinance addresses. The other ordinance with respect to 305 talked about the other changes that we were proposing. And you got an updated comparison between what the existing ordinance is and our proposed changes. And this proposed ordinance also includes the necessary definitions that have to be in place in order to make it consistent with the rest of the ordinances. This time, the ordinances, the definitions are a little bit different than what we previously submitted, because it takes into account comments that were raised by Judy Stern-Goldstein from your engineering consultant, and some comments from the Monroe County Planning Commission. But the only definitions that we provided in this ordinance are just what's needed for 305, and that being the various classification of dwellings and then a definition of dwelling unit. But other than that, there was nothing there. The most recent document that we sent was also today was the proposed changes that we were proposing for the ordinance that the township had previously prepared for the economic development district and for the incentivized development use within the township. And in the email that I sent with that as a cover letter, there were actually 4 specific items that were of major import in that revised changes from our standpoint to section 306. Number 1, that was the change of the incentivized development district to an incentivized development option, because there was a common misconception that the mixed use development itself was an overlay district within the township, and it was not an overlay district. It was actually a mixed use development option, because when you look at the title for section 305, that's what it's labeled as, is mixed use development option. So we proposed a change for the incentivized development from district to option, and then that puts it on an even footing with the mixed use development. The
Doug,
second,
you sent that today?
yes, I did, Brian.
Okay, I have to apologize. I said I was out.
No. I didn't expect you to necessarily, to open that up today, but I wanted to at least make sure we got the stuff in there.
Good. Thank you.
And then what I didn't, item number 2 on the list of principal permitted uses within the ED zone, we added incentivized development, because since it would be an option as opposed to an overlay district, it had to be added to the permitted uses within the ED zone. The third item was related to a specific criteria in the ED district uses. And you can look at the email in terms of the specific ordinance reference to that. I won't bother boring you with those details, but that basically lays out the framework for a change where the overlay that it would be no longer an overlay district that has control over the mixed use development. It basically states that you've got a mixed use development option and an incentivized development option. Each one is available underneath the ED district, and each one stands on its own underneath the ED district without one being controlling over the other. Because as originally submitted by the township, the incentivized development overlay district would have control over the mixed use development, and there were numerous places where there would have been conflicts that would have made the current project for the mixed use development, that being Smithfield Gateway, requiring pretty much a major redesign. We also, number 4, we provided the definitions for dwelling and dwelling unit as previously provided underneath 305. So they were removed from the proposed changes underneath the ED/306 ordinance, because since they're provided in another ordinance. There are a number of other changes, but those are really minor wording changes to make items and various phrases and sections more clear to the reader as to what we think the intent was. So those are the specific items. And as far as the numbers and distances and coverages, et cetera, and various uses, none of those changes there were no changes made to reflect those items. So those are the key items that were changed as far as the ED/306, which I think is consistent with the meeting that we previously had with the township at the last work session on this issue. So I think you've got everything in place. I also want to mention the fact that Mark Wolf provided the legal documents for the legal notices for the paper, as well as some letters and notices that Kenneth Wolf, your zoning officer, would use to post on the site, and then to provide documentation to the Board of Supervisors that they did provide that notice, because that was mentioned in the county's review letter that that documentation would have to be in place. And those draft letters and notices were sent to Ron for his review and comment and utilization as he saw fit. And the final item that we did mention, that we did provide a response to the Monroe County Planning Commission's review of May 8th. Our letter is dated today, May 13th. And while there were a number of items in there that weren't directly applicable to our project, and we stated though in the review letter, for example, the utilization of some uses that appeared to be not provided elsewhere in the township, and that needed to be addressed before they would be allowed anywhere within the township. Specifically mentioned by the Planning Commission was the adult uses. And because that is a policy issue for the township only, we did not get into the discussion with respect to that. But any items that were specifically related to the Smithfield Gateway project, and we really didn't have any issues with any of the items. He just mentioned that there were certain things that needed to be discussed at the township level. So those are the documents that we had promised that we would provide, and have now done so.
And also, Doug, Robert had some questions which you answered also, correct?
Yes. Robert had a couple of questions based on his review that tried to provide some of those responses to Robert.
We'd be happy to go over them if he would like.
So.
Would you like to discuss them, Robert?
Yeah, so those are the quote unquote opening comments that I might have, and we're certainly ready to answer any responses. And if I don't have an answer, I'll look in the paper behind me. I'm sure there's an answer back there someplace.
Got it. Doug, Brian again. You mentioned that you were taking a look at, well, two things, but the housing and changing definitions, was that correct? Is that what
Yes,
I understood it to be?
We changed some definitions, but in most cases, we followed right along what Judy was looking for from her review. So it was consistent what was previously proposed by the township. Oh, and the other key issue is that we removed single family homes from our proposed ordinance.
Exactly.
Because that was a comment that was raised, I believe, by John Tressler and also by the County Planning Commission as of areas of concern. And so we removed that from our proposal. We didn't have any single family home sites
Right.
proposed in our project, but
Not in your project.
but in trying to make it more global, we included them, but based on their comments, we've actually withdrawn that from the document that was sent to you on Monday.
Okay. And another, and you mentioned that there are going to be some additions or revisions so that we're not in a position where a project is not allowed anywhere in the township. I thought Stacy Yoder took care of that about at the end of last week. Doug, did you see her last comments?
No, I don't know if they were provided to us, Brian.
Okay. What happened was working Judy and Stacy and Ron, which I think, and with conversations with Robert about just making sure that especially in DD zone, we have terminology in there that doesn't put us in one of these 305 situations again, where supposedly it's not allowed anywhere in the township. If you don't have them, I don't know. I can get them, and I'll get them to you and Jim.
Yeah, because if there are specific language changes that should be incorporated into the documents that we sent to you, I don't know what your intent is as far as sending a new document to the county to start a new review with them. I don't know if you're going to use ours as a base to send to them. And if you are going to do that, then we need to see those comments from Stacy and the engineer so that we can incorporate that into our document. We'll do that, on your behalf, and then you could submit that to the county for their official review.
Okay, and I guess, Doug, all I was saying is that we let Judy and Stacy know, and Ron, that we didn't want to be ever put in a position where we are now with two different instances going on in our township. And we've got the situations where we have to go to make decisions, pretty much saying that they're not allowed anywhere else. And that exclusion, I thought that they were going to, with some kind of just terminology, take care of that. But if you haven't seen that, I'll get that back to you right away. Eric did reply, though, huh? He got back to you, and you answered his concerns, or at least.
Well, Eric sent a review letter to you on May 8th.
Yeah, got that.
A copy of that was also sent to me, to us. And I was just providing a written response to his comments, and that's what I sent to you today.
Right. Okay. Again, thanks.
How many acres is the total between Chelsea and Mosher?
Chelsea is 29 acres.
Okay.
How much overall, Jim? We're
120.
we're around 120 acres.
120 acres. And I don't think there's anywhere in the township where you have 120 acres for development.
No, but the criteria underneath the existing ordinance, and we didn't propose any changes to that, was that you need to have at least 25 acres to utilize the mixed use development option. And if you were going to include residential use within the mixed development option, you had to have at least 50 acres. And we meet both of those criteria, obviously.
As you know from some of the comments I sent you last night, my only concern is that what we're doing here, which is great for Gateway, maybe there's others that is there's steep slope. It's fine. You're proposing. So in other words, there are things that are unique to Gateway. I wonder if we can create another incentivized zone or a sub zone of over 100 acres, something like that, so that we don't have to worry about it with somebody else coming along and asking for the same.
Robert, I'm sorry, but you were totally garbled. I didn't hear a word you said or understand it.
Somebody has some background noise going on in their computer, so if they can mute themselves, that might resolve the issue.
No, the problem is I don't have a mic because we're in the same room, so we don't.
Yeah, no, I don't think it's you. So.
Well, that narrows it down, Dougie.
Yeah, it does. Jim
or I.
It's quiet.
Let me.
My wife is going downstairs. I get it.
I said.
So what, Doug, do you understand the question that?
You could say.
If I understand correctly, Robert wants to make sure that if he allows the across the state road for this project, he wants to make sure he's not stuck with living with that on another one. And
well, there are other things. For instance, steep slope. You know, there's a whole list of them. They're unique to Gateway, and Gateway is unique because it's of a size that we won't see again. I'm just worried about having those built into the mixed use so that another developer could come along with a much smaller development and claim that he could have the same privileges. And I think we could somehow separate it, but that's all I'm worried about. Nothing to do with you guys. It's
no. I get it. And I guess the question is, in doing a review of the parcels that could potentially, fit into that classification, how many are there that actually exist in the township at this point?
Doug, weren't there some criterias in terms of size of parcels and also whether they're on a state road or not? That we separate Gateway from others?
Yeah, well, the first thing that would have to be analyzed is, number one, how many parcels of at least 25 acres exist on a state road in what'll be the ED district? Because that'll identify what could potentially be turned into a mixed-use development.
Right, and that we had that concern, and I think working with Ron and Mark and yourself, Doug, I thought we came up with a pretty airtight definition, and I think it was 2 straight roads.
Yeah, that's what I think.
Well, I think the 2 state roads is if we had, I believe, if we had residential. I think it was only 1 state road for 25 acres. And if you had residential, I think it had to be in 2 state roads.
Okay. All right.
So how many properties have 2 state roads in Smithfield Township?
Well, that also means that
anything else.
But that also means that if they're going to have 2 state roads, that means they're looking for, to add residential.
That would seem to be the case.
Why? It seems like the easiest thing to do is just make the size of the parcel big enough so that no one else can ever qualify. You're so much bigger than any other area that we have for development that would settle it right there.
Robert, I would agree with that, but my only caution would be, and I've been pushing the envelope, it is, as it is playing attorney in preparing all these documents. But we have to be careful that it is not too focused for just the Smithfield Gateway project, or else somebody could claim foul and refer to it as spot zoning.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
That's a fair.
It sounds like the existing criteria probably fits it. I mean, there's potentially one other spot I can think of, and
And if that is the Russ Scott property, up there at at the other end of the township, in order for them to get their entire parcel included, to be able to be utilized as a mixed-use development, they would have to come in for zoning change anyway, because not all of their land is included in the ED parcel, as I understand.
correct.
Yes, correct.
So I mean, then is it up to us to determine whether or not we want both planning commissions to proceed with the original document we had, or the ones Doug has provided us? Is that the decision then that has to be?
Well, I think there's, right now, you've actually got three ordinances, proposed ordinances before you.
Right.
The one with respect to the parking in the front yard, I would hope that you could actually set a hearing date that is, I'm going to say 45 days out, and then you can submit to both the county and the township planning commissions that they've got basically 30 days to review and provide comment on that small ordinance. That will take care of that issue, so that we would be able to proceed with preparation of plans and the submission of documents for phase 1A, in order to meet some deadlines that we're committing to a possible tenant for phase 1A. The second one would be the ordinance with respect to 305, the rest of the changes. And actually, we'd love it if you could put both of those ordinances, at the same public hearing, because there's really not a whole lot of changes, but that would spark at least the discussion and the review by both planning commissions from an official standpoint. And then I'm not sure how you want to proceed with the proposed changes, but if you're in agreement that the incentivized development should be an option as opposed to an overlay district,
Right.
and I'm personally of the opinion, since that's really the big kahuna as far as the change that we proposed in that one, you could propose all three of those for a hearing in 45 days and submit all three ordinances to both planning commissions for review and comment within the next 30 days.
Well, for our reasons, totally removed from Gateway, we'd love to get 305 passed.
Yeah, I mean that.
Well, yeah, what we want to do is get that parking right out of the way as soon as possible.
Yep.
And as you said, it's a very brief. It's a brief ordinance. It reads well. It's common sense. And I'll say this much: the Monroe County Planning Commission with Eric and Christine Meinhardt, they've been on top of this. And you said you did get Eric's responses. I think what he wanted to do was to anything else that's going on, we get that to him as soon as possible. When you send those revisions, I'm finding them now. I guess today, but there were a couple of others several days ago, Doug, where you said that I would leave it up to you, the BOS, to put this on the plate of the local planning commission. I don't know where that went.
Well, I think it needs to be officially submitted to, because there has been some reticence on the part of the Township Planning Commission to have these types of meetings as opposed to in-person meetings, they've not been willing to actually have any meetings with which to discuss any of this. However,
Yep.
I believe under advice of counsel, if you take the ordinances as we've submitted and submit those from the supervisors to the Township Planning Commission and the County Planning Commission, that starts the 30-day clock for you to be able to wait for them to respond. And then they have to do their review and meet as necessary in order to be able to provide comments within that 30-day time frame. But by the same token, the MPC also allows for the option that if you do not get a response within the 30 days, that can be interpreted as they've got no adverse comments, and that
It's a deemed approval.
that is correct.
You know?
I didn't want to use that word, so
Yeah.
but yes,
Okay.
that's what happened. So that's why I suggested, you've got those documents. If you feel comfortable with them, you could submit those to both planning commissions, say, okay, guys, you got 30 days. And then you could actually set a hearing date. And I said 45 days because that gives you an extra 2 weeks, 45 days from now to address all three ordinances.
I don't see why we couldn't do that.
I'm not sure.
Remember this, we don't have to submit it to them immediately. We have to submit it to them in time, so that at least they get a couple of cracks at having meetings if they want to. There's a work session they have towards the end of the month, and then their monthly meeting is the second week, which would be before
Tomorrow. Okay.
the monthly meeting in June even. Would be about the 7th or the 8th.
Well, I think they have a scheduled work session, Robert, and I think we just get a chance to take a look at this for the first time, go through it, peruse it, and then I think that what we'll do is just put our planning commission say, listen, this is your agenda. Lois will send out an agenda, and that'll be a part of the agenda, and then she'll see if she can get enough people there to have a meeting and have a vote.
That's not.
Gentlemen, let me tell you of a conversation I had with Mike, who is Charlie Kirkwood's son-in-law. He's on the planning commission, and I did talk to him the other day and expressed to him that I'm just surprised that the planning commission is not wanting to be active and getting together with these Zoom conferences that these we're moving forward, and it's not our style to avoid them. And I wanted him to know that. Well, his attitude was, it is frustrating that that there is this reluctance to communicate the way we're doing here. And he did say, frankly, I think that I'd like to see something officially put in front of us. And I think that would be the spur for them to, get serious. But I'm not so sure.
So listen, Jacob has a damn good handle on what we're doing. Robert's done some research. I know Ron has, I myself have. In the state of Pennsylvania right now, there's a little bit of chatter. What we're doing is, can it stand up? Can it stand up under an appeal in the courts? The consensus is that yes, it can, but the good old governor has never ever come out and said that this is the way it's allowable and it will stand up. What that might mean is that we've got to get a little bit of clarification on that, and one or all of us should start looking at it and seeing what we can come up with.
Well,
it's
Brian,
a simple procedure. Jacob laid it all out, the whole thing of how you do it, what you can do it, and it even goes further than that. I don't think that it would be a problem, but if we can convince the Planning Commission that it's relatively simple, we would ask Jacob to give them a hand, and then at their work session, which is the last Wednesday of the month, we put this in order and go from there. and let's push to have it.
Are you saying,
Actually, let them handle it on their work session the last Wednesday of this month of April.
They'll give it to them
we have to officially submit it to
the
them?
28th. You want them it on their work session agenda on the 28th, all three. That's what you're saying.
You betcha. And what we'll do is we send it out as we always have done historically. Lois Turr was the quasi-secretary of the outfit.
Right.
And we'll send it out. She'll set the agenda. She'll set the agenda after discussions with the Board of Supervisors and maybe Scott Amore. I'm not sure if we even involve him. And the agenda's set. It's put there, and we expect a meeting. If they don't meet, then we look to see what our next step is with them. I don't think you're going to have a problem at all with the County Planning Commission.
No, I'm not concerned about that either. I think we can, if anything, we can get that turned around with them in rather short order, especially with respect to the 10%/20% issue. We could probably get a review letter on that in less than a week, since that's such a small ordinance. The other ones might take a little bit longer. They may want their full 30 days on those, but I'm not shy, and I know Jim's not shy. We'll, push them as hard as we can to get them to respond in the township in a timely manner, so that we've definitely met that 30-day time frame.
I think that'd be a great joint venture because actually Smithfield has an excellent working relationship with the County Planning Commission and our own. And if we both, they know the urgency of it.
No.
Doug,
But to be honest with you, Brian, I'm more concerned about your planning commission than I am the county one.
Well, I can see that. So the thing of it is, we put it on their plate. We can do it for their work session at the end of the month, and it's presented to them. What they've got to do is see if they can get a quorum, and if it's just no response or they can't get a quorum, I think we should look for guidance, Ron, Mark, whoever, to say what's our next step. Here it is. It's there. 30 days from now, we're gonna decide that they made no comment and no recommendation, so we can take.
Well, the key thing is for the Board of Supervisors to officially transmit that to both the county and the Township Planning Commission, so that 30-day time clock starts.
And if we do it, it'll start on the very same day. Yep.
I'm saying, Brian, that
Oh, I agree. Yeah.
it would start on the 28th, May 28th. That's
Yeah.
Thursday. That would be their work
That's
session.
No, it starts from the day that I think you can check with your attorney, but I think the 30-day time clock starts from the time it's submitted to them.
No, it does not, Doug. I ran into that and got in trouble.
Oh, okay. All
Okay.
right.
But
So
you could check with Mark,
No.
or you could check.
No,
Ron.
you're right. If they only meet on a monthly basis, you submit it to them the day after a meeting, and then they miss an entire month and only have one day to deliberate. So no, I get it. So
One of the advantages of this also is if they don't meet on the 28th, they still have a chance to meet on the 11th of June.
Right.
And
Yes.
they've got 2 bites at this until.
And there's no excuse not. You're right. Take a poll of them. I don't know, but the way I see Jacob, especially, had some relatively new, at least news items for me. This is getting better and better and more inclusive, and it totally allows for public input. It's taped. I don't see any reason why they would have any qualms, except that I don't know that we may be a few steps ahead of the Planning Commission in general.
but
They've done it.
the advantage of the time clock starting in that time frame is that, Brian, if you can get those comments to me from Stacy and the engineer as quickly as possible, if there is some substantive changes that I can incorporate into our document, I can send out a new document that takes those items into account
Well,
explained.
one
those
change you're
changes.
going to see, though, doesn't mean anything to anyone, is we're going to do away with the shooting ranges, outside shooting ranges. That was out, the last submittal she made, I'll get that to you. But all it was taking the ED as she finalized it, and I think that went back a while. Eric's concerned is he saw your recommendations for revisions, and he's looking at them.
Eric's, well, I don't know if he's officially looking at my submission to him because
Not
it has
the new one. Yeah, all right.
Yeah, because he needs to hear something officially from the
Right.
Board of Supervisors before he starts a 30-day time clock. So,
Right.
And then you just have to make sure, since Eric specifically raised that as an issue, you need to make sure that the adult uses are covered at least someplace in some zone.
Amen. Well, that's just one of them, and I think that was covered. I'm pretty sure that Ron and Judy and Cindy did a good workup of it, and they got it to us, and that was sent over to them. So I'm looking now. I'm just getting on here on from you this afternoon about 1:00. Though that's what you would want us to submit to both of these planning commissions, correct?
That ordinance on the ED/306, yes, that should be submitted to the planning commission. Both
Right away.
planning commissions. The two proposed ordinances that I sent to you on Monday on 305 should also be submitted. So they should be sent 3 ordinances, 2 on 305 and 1 on ED/306.
Okay.
If you want,
All
I
right,
can
Doug,
send.
I'm looking now, but it's getting goofed up. I will. I'll get these together, Robert, Jacob, and Doug, Jim, and I'll get and let everybody know what I'm sending, when I'm sending.
Doug,
All
will
right.
that start the clock, Doug, with the planning commissions, the 2 planning commissions?
Well, the county planning commission, as soon as they receive the documents, that'll start their time clock. But what Brian
Once
is,
they say it,
but
they
Brian
make a
is,
determination.
yes,
Their
but,
determination is that they're complete and they're satisfied with the completeness. Then they start the clock.
say that again,
Pretty much.
Brian.
That they'll make a determination that the plans submitted are complete.
Yeah, but since we're talking in an ordinance, that doesn't make sense.
Well, not the plans. The ordinance itself is complete. And they'll make a review and they'll say, okay, we accept it as presented, and that starts the clock, and then the 30 days.
Jim, at the time clock, based on what Brian has stated, would start, at least as far as the Township Planning Commission is concerned, at their workshop session, which is, I guess, the last Tuesday of the month?
Yep.
May 28th,
What's that?
the last Thursday of each month.
Last Thursday of the month. Okay. So that'd be the Thursday after Memorial Day.
Oh, they changed that too? It used to be the last Wednesday, but
Yeah, I think they changed it when they moved their original meeting to Thursday. I believe that their work sessions are. I'll check their minutes to be sure, but I'm pretty
Doug, that would be for all of them, including the parking amendment?
Yes.
Parking amendment, we want to make sure we should send that off to them. Especially, we should get that right off right now to when I get off of here. Get that down to the County Planning Commission. That should be as Doug said it's a no-brainer, really. And then it would be included at the end of the month, the last Thursday of the month, I guess, for our Planning Commission. But the Planning Commission county they'll be weeks ahead of them and I'm sure we'll have that in hand, their
Well,
recommendation.
and the advantage of that is that, the county could have comments in time before any hearing is set for the township to absorb those comments from the county and any comments that they may make themselves.
Amen.
Right.
True.
But,
Yep.
but to that end, then I would ask that the supervisors submit all three of those ordinances to the county. So you start the time clock on all three of those ordinances. And then you can, get comments as quickly as possible on all of them.
Good idea, because we need
Yep.
we need to get the ED zone ordinance back. We have other problems
Right.
that could come up, and we want to make sure that's law.
I agree with sending all three.
Yes.
Okay, gentlemen, is that it?
All right.
We're getting moving. I stepped aside because that was Senator Scavello, and I'm asking his help. Our PIP loan, which is $3.5 million, that's the PennDOT Bank.
Right.
He's been in Harrisburg for like 90 days, and with COVID, it's kind of stuck there. So I said to him, Mario, we're going to be pushing Doug and I in about 30 to 60 days to be breaking ground on the infrastructure work. So can you help me get that money out of Harrisburg? So he's on it. We've had a good conference call. Our anchor tenant wanted assurance that PennDOT would have that road completed by the end of next year. And Brian Boyer was excellent. And he basically said, DePetris has done this a number of times, and his team has done it. So if he gets everything we need and we can start April 1, we can have this road completed by the end of next year. So wheels are turning.
What road is that? What road is that?
209. 209. 209. Because that,
If
Hey,
everything, if everything goes according to schedule, a year from now, there'll be bulldozers out there on 209.
yeah. And then on the, the other phase, we want to cut our architect loose to, really start designing and going forward. But obviously having this zoning is important. That's why we appreciate the speed by which you guys are addressing this. So we're excited, and let's get it happen.
So, on that note, I guess Jim and I will get out of your hair so you can take care of the other business on your plate.
Yeah.
Okay.
We
Thank
appreciate.
Dougie, just before you leave, please.
Yes, sir.
I'm taking a look at everything. I'm catching up, actually. But I just looked at the two section ordinance revisions that you submitted on 5/11. Is that
Right.
correct?
Yes, that's on
What
Monday.
was the other one now? The other one was on what? Before that?
No, not before that. You want to look at the two on 5/11, which are related to section 305, and then
They're
the
in
one
front of me.
and then the one that was submitted today on ED/306.
Okay, I'm still on 305 here.
Doug, maybe to make it easier, could you send an email to us that has all three Word docs in one email?
I will do that, and also because the county made a comment about the. Yeah, and because the county made a comment that they didn't have the map when they did their review of the ordinances, I will also include a copy of the map that Brian had sent to me. They made reference to the draft map, but I will include all three ordinances plus the map in the email that I send to Brian, and then he could forward that on to the Planning Commission for both the township and the county.
Well, I'm ready to go right now. I found them. I'm up to date. So,
Then, okay,
I'll wait for the map.
Brian. All right. Well, Brian, you sent the map to me. So if you can
I know.
find, so I'll resend you the map, and then you can include that in with the three ordinances that you got sitting right in front of you.
Okay, good. I
All right.
appreciate it, Doug.
So I will send that to you within the next 5 minutes.
Sounds great.
All right,
Okay,
gentlemen,
good.
gentlemen, thank you very much. And if
Thank
you have any questions, you know where to find me.
You betcha. Hey, James, Jim?
Yes.
Yes. You say hello to Mario for us and tell us son of a gun to get us all the money we need.
Yes.
Okay.
I heard he's on the warpath with the governor. And he wants to get people back to work. So that's a good thing. Let's get people back to work. Right?
Well, yeah, well, let's get some monies in their coffers in the state. They're
right.
God knows.
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Thank you. Oh, thank you.
Thanks, guys. Bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Okay, let's move on here.
Yeah, amen. I just, maybe I should have stayed out painting. I don't know.
Okay, motion to adopt resolution 440, Greenway Trails and Recreation Program Grant. And it doesn't say it here, but that is the amount of $114,425. Here,
Right, and there's our commitment of 24. Yeah, I'll make the motion.
Okay, what is our fair share? What's our contribution?
it's 20%.
Yeah, 24. I think it was something like 15 or 20%. It's $24,902 is what we have committed.
I think that includes in kind.
Yeah, okay. We could talk about that tomorrow, Robert. I think you're definitely right on that. Okay, so there's a motion.
I'll second.
I thought we did this. Okay, I'll second that motion.
Okay.
Now, did you get the stuff we sent out? We sent it to Mary originally. The financials are gone. You and Jacob are the main contacts on this particular one, the wellness part. That what else? Well, the letter of financial intent. And what was, and of course, resolution 440. Is there anything else? I think we covered everything and got them to Mary, and I did ask her if she, and you guys were copied, so I think it's done, except we've got to wait for the letters to come back from our endorsers, supporters.
Right.
Goddamn county sent some goddamn email. I guess I just saw that now. They want more information.
I don't think we even need them. I think all we need is Christine.
Well, Robert, I don't remember ever sending them a letter, so.
I don't think you sent them one.
I never remember asking them for letters before.
No, that's what I mean. I don't either. But you know what? If they're asking for a simple map, and you feel it's up to and it's easy enough to get it and extract it and send it over to them, what the hell?
If they do anything, it'll be too late anyway.
Well, they have Wednesday meetings too, so you know.
But anyway, Brian, I've got your resolution that you signed here already, and I've got the commitment letter for the township funding commitment. They're both signed, so they're all done. We've already
Beautiful.
Oh, yeah, we just got to ratify the motion.
Right. Let's have a vote on the motion. All in favor of this motion 440? Aye.
Aye.
You already.
Well, yeah, we voted on
Yeah.
that. We're talking about the letter,
All right, so
which is
motion
separate
carried.
somehow.
Okay. A motion to authorize chairman to sign the DCED GTRP grant application commitment letter, which since it's already signed, I'll make a motion. Okay.
All right, second.
Sure. Good.
Okay.
And I think that covers everything that Mary wanted.
Yeah,
I think we're okay. We covered everything Mary wanted, and then all we need to do is make sure we get our letters back from Christine DeTore. She called me this afternoon just before I went out, and she says, "Are you sure this damn thing is on the Marshall's Creek?" And I had to give her the history of Marshall's Creek, and I don't know if I copied you guys, but I will. My benchmarks were 2 bars, Alaska Pete's and the Menacing Hotel. She understood it. So she's going to have that letter out to us real soon.
Really important one. We've already got one from the hospital. We've got one from Strausser.
Strausser's read nice.
Yeah. And so did the hospital. It was very nice.
yeah.
Mary keeps saying it's not that important. It's nice, but not that important. So I think if we've got Christine's, that'll do it. I wrote to Rosemary asking her, and I got back something about how she's not doing anything because she doesn't know what dates are going to be available. It's like, what? But it's not. It's just not worth bothering with.
Okay. Can we continue then?
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Bills to be paid. We've got a total of $39,243.28, which is the general fund 34,451.04, park fund 4,000.
Right, and that includes payroll. And that includes the payroll.
That includes the payroll, yeah. Good.
Highway fund 279.74. So I have a motion to pay the bills.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second that motion.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried. Carried. And now nothing else here. Any new business? Oh, there is one piece of new business.
Cone, right?
I was in
The
touch.
attorney Cone and the G5 stuff.
Who?
The fire.
Yeah, the 5G.
The attorney that worked with us on drafting an ordinance for G5.
I think where we left off is we never completed it because the FCC was changing the rules. Now that's
I saw that. I thought we went a little further, but I'm gonna ask Lois to look again, Robert, just in case. Okay, but
I think it went to Ron. Ron was reviewing it. Then they said there are changes, wait, and it just sort of vanished. That's my.
Okay.
But anyway, what Cohn said is, shall we make you a proposal to finish the amendment and make the changes? And yeah, make us a proposal. So we'll get this proposal.
well, yeah, we spent a good amount of money with him too, he and his assistant. So we'll get that. We'll get to where we left off and have him continue and revise, right?
Right.
Okay.
So we'll get something from him. We don't have to do anything now, but it's something we should do as part of our upgraded zoning laws.
Yep, I agree.
I think other than that, somebody can make a motion to
Well,
adjourn.
before we get to that, I just want to say, now that the deadline, the 4 p.m. deadline passed for submissions for office manager, we had like 110 applications. I think you all saw the amount of emails we got from Indeed, plus we have them from Facebook, and then of course some that were faxed and or emailed to us. And
can we get those? Can we assemble each and every one of those so that we can sit and vet them? And the reason I say that is that I don't think we want to make any assumption that that nobody's totally not worth even getting back to. I say that because there could be ramifications, except for the one who is a waitress in a Chinese restaurant, and that's all that person ever did.
No.
I can't believe it. But Jacob, we all three have to put our eyes on those. So
yeah.
I'm seeing these. We got like 45 from.
Right, we have 48 or between 48 and 50 from Indeed, 53 on Facebook, and then we have 10 or so that were sent directly to the office, so, either by fax or email. So what I'm going to do tomorrow, because I downloaded PDFs of all of the resumes that we got, so I'm going to create a folder that we can all see everything in, so everyone can download them and look at them. Because I will say I spent a while, because I made like 5 different manila folders on my desk today, and I did take some notes on those folders, because some of them are people that clearly did not read a thing that we wrote. One person said, where did they work? They wrote here. So there were some people like that. But other than that, I would say that there's probably in the neighborhood of like maybe 30 that, submitted full, letters and resumes that are really good to look at. So I'm going to compile those because I have a lot of paper for our paper records, but I'll make sure that we can all see them digitally too, because, we've got a platform ready, in Zoom for potentially interviewing some of these folks. And I think we all know some of them. So maybe next week we can look at doing some of that.
And I do have the results. I asked the Lafayette College people not to send any resumes until the 4 o'clock today. After that, so hopefully we'll be getting some from them also.
Oh, okay.
And if they get them to me, I'll get them right to you, Jacob.
That sounds good, and I'll print them out for the paper record too. And looks like we could probably use Zoom for the interviews, because then you could have Robert and I sit here and you on your phone, and you'll be able to see everybody, and maybe even come in socially distanced, do something like that.
I might come in for something like that. You bet. Yeah. And before, as you said, we'll look at them, we'll vet them, we'll prioritize them, and then we'll just go from there. And I think we should, and I learned this again over the years, that we all should be on the same page when we do our interviewing and asking our questions. How many times I sat down with other people involved in an interview, and it just went from left field to first base, if you know what I mean. It was just crazy.
I did vetting for some endorsement committees before, so I think I like your idea of coordinating, sections of questions or something like that. Yeah.
The heart and soul of it we could come up with, and then there's other questions like, but we could do that, and that's a no-brainer, really. It's just that I've seen it over the past. I've worked for labor and industry, as I say. That was my real career, and sometimes it was amazing how it can just go downhill. If you're sitting there with 2 or 3 other people, and you're in a group interview, and one woman or man is sitting across from you, and out of nowhere somebody says, "Well, you have a driver's license? Can you drive a stick?" And I said, "What the hell where's this guy going?" It just the 3 reasonable men as we are.
Yeah, keep it.
We should have no problem.
And all that stuff. But we can talk about that outside the meeting. We have a couple days this week that tomorrow and Friday that we can do that, and hopefully start interviews in earnest by next week, maybe even the middle.
Yep.
Because there's some that are local. There's some that are not. There's a couple that are not local. Someone's from Virginia Beach, someone's from Texas, but a lot of them are from Monroe County.
That's well, all these Indeeders are. I saw that. We'll see. Let's see what we get.
Sounds good.
We don't have a. I don't think we made it part of the job description or the job requirements that you have to be in Monroe County.
No.
What we usually do is say that we would highly recommend that you relocate if we got the right person that we were interested in. Would you relocate to Monroe County?
Right.
So, okay.
So should I make a motion to adjourn at 5:03?
Good idea.
Did he say thank you?
He said good idea.
I'll second the motion.
All right.
Okay.
Adjourned 5:03.
Aye.
Okay. All right.
Done.